So I hope everyone's having a great day. We're here at the podcast studio, and I got with me Stephanie from Morgan Oaks. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you, Colby?
I'm doing good. It's you say it's cold in here, but I'm sweating, so I don't know what that means.
I mean, yeah, maybe it's just nerves,
I think it's the nerves. This is our first
excited.
podcast.
Yeah, this is not Colby's first, everyone, but like back in it. And this is my first official podcast. So I think we need to set the bar fairly low for this first one. And then we'll just the listeners will far exceed their expectations, Colby. I'm so excited for this. So
exactly.
You guys, I'm here with Colby in his studio. And Colby, for those of you that don't know who he is, he does all things for us. Videos, photos, all those beautiful photos you see on our website. I would say 80% yours, 20% mine. I do all right?
I'll take it.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
80-20.
And so Colby is in charge of all those things for us. So you'll see him on the property. He is magnificent. He helps us a lot. And honestly, you've been with us a while. So we're excited. You've kind of watched this whole journey with us. So it's going to be cool. It's going to be rad to do this with you. And I'm excited. So let's rock and roll.
It's cool watching us grow as a team, and then also watching the trees grow that get planted out there. And I've been with you guys long enough now to kind of see all the seasons.
Yeah.
When the grass is green, there's the super bloom, and then the trees are full, and now it's dry grass with sticks.
Yeah, I call that our golden era.
The golden era.
Yeah.
It looks beautiful all year round, though.
Yeah.
I love it. I love going out there and just me and my camera. I feel like a nature photographer just walking around.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, we appreciate
the cool stuff out there. All right, well, we are here to give you guys some Morgan Oaks knowledge. And my first question to Stephanie is, who are you and what's your connection to Morgan Oaks Eternal Preserve?
Cool. Well, welcome everybody. This is the Green Burial Chronicles with Morgan Oaks. So that's our official name here at the podcast, in the podcast world. And my name again is Stephanie Brow. And what is my connection with Morgan Oaks? Well, I've been here since startup. I've watched it kind of come into fruition, and my connection is all things. Like, I'm the broker, I'm the manager, I kind of run the show there. I like to think I do. Obviously I have people above me and below me that support me, but I am the person in charge of making sure day to day everything goes smoothly and it's becoming what we've envisioned it to be. So that's who I am out there.
I love that. So you wear a lot of hats out there, huh?
I do, and it's fun. I mean, I take photos some days. Some days I do Alicia's job, our social media person. Some days I'm the burial expert. Some days I'm the tree expert. It just really depends what we need.
Exactly. I love it. I love it. All right. Well, tell me what Morgan Oaks Eternal Preserve is.
Sure. So it is a green burial cemetery. If I was to just say a few words, that's what it is. We are unlike anything else. We are 160 acres in Lincoln. And I think, honestly, you've been there, obviously. Until you've seen it, I think people are like, yeah, it's whatever. It's beautiful. 3 miles of walking trails. We have lots of dog walkers. We have 5 areas for interment. So we have a Jewish garden, a veterans garden, 2 gardens for everybody. And then we have our beautiful Rainbow Bridge, which is for our pets. 40 acres of our property is a wildlife preserve. So we're beautifully set in Lincoln, California. If y'all are familiar with that, I don't know where you're listening from, but Lincoln, California is a area just outside of Roseville, outside of Sacramento. So Northern California, Placer County. And we really have created a park-like setting. So you walk into our place. I mean, Colby, you've been there, so you know it doesn't feel like you're at a cemetery. Most people drive by and are like, oh, I thought it was a golf course. It's not. But it's just this great, peaceful place. We have chairs you can come and sit. We're right by the winery. So we've created a setting where you can lay your loved ones to rest and feel at peace and just come and enjoy nature. So that's really what we are, and who we are, what we offer.
I love it. It's definitely very peaceful out there. Like I said, when I go out there to take photos, it's really relaxing. So it's kind of like an unplug. Yeah. Even though I'm working, it doesn't feel like I'm working.
Yeah. I mean, you still have Wi-Fi out there. So I always tell people it's not like you're totally off the grid, but you can be if you want to.
Right. Exactly. All right. Well, what inspired you to start the Green Burial Chronicles with Morgan Oaks?
Okay. So I've always thought podcasting was cool, right? Like, that's the new trendy thing, right? You would agree, like, everyone's a podcaster.
Everybody's doing it.
But I also think we're in an arena with Morgan Oaks where not everybody knows what green burial is. we're still educating. And I think, it's one thing to come visit. It's one thing to visit our website, but also like, I want people to know everything there is to know about Green Burial, everything there is to know about how Morgan Oaks came into play. Like, I want education, but I want this podcast to be fun because we're talking about death. Let's just be real. And it's not always the most fun topic, right? Like, I don't come to work and be like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to talk about death. Like, this is great. Listen, and we're guaranteed two things: taxes and dying. Like, those are maybe not everybody has to pay taxes. Those people, they're special, but
Everybody experiences death in one way or another.
yeah, right? So I think this podcast allows me to hit a different group of people that maybe wouldn't visit our website, but like just want to know something cool. And our goal, Colby, is to make this educational, to make this fun and light, but also just give people options. You may not choose Morgan Oaks, but at least you can say like, oh wow, I learned something cool. Like, maybe not for me, but I'm going to share with someone else. Or I just like learning. I'm someone who, I know you do, just like to know more. If there's something to learn, I want to learn it.
Yeah, who doesn't like learning and options?
Yeah.
Like, that's two good things.
Yeah.
Let's go. So then in regards to Morgan Oaks, what makes you guys unique?
I think a lot of things. Green Burial in itself. There are not a lot of green burial options. Like I said, in California, there are hybrid options, but I think we've created something that a traditional cemetery cannot provide. So it's park-like, it's serene. We have a wildlife preserve. It's welcoming. It feels good. So my dad is laid to rest half at Morgan Oaks and half at a traditional cemetery, obviously cremated, because that would be weird if it wasn't. But when I go to a traditional cemetery, it's not a place I want to visit. I laid him to rest and it just is what it is. It doesn't feel good. It's very sad and somber. But I love visiting my dad at Morgan Oaks. Now, granted, might I be a little biased? Yes. But all the people that have loved ones at Morgan Oaks are always visiting. So we create this environment where you just feel good when you're there. But also, I would say, my staff, my people, all the people that work at Morgan Oaks, we make you feel loved and special. I could tell you a story about almost everybody laid to rest at Morgan Oaks, because that's how invested we are. So we're all about loving you, your family, and making sure it's what's best for everyone. We're also probably one of the only cemeteries that have a podcast, that are on social media, that are doing something innovative to make the conversation of death fun, or at least something we should all be talking about. I think that's important. My dad died very unexpectedly, had nothing in place. And it was a really ugly conversation sitting on my best friend. My dad was my best friend, sitting at his deathbed saying, Dad, how would you like to die? Like, I don't want to have that conversation with my dad. And so my goal is to make sure that these people I meet with don't have to do that. Grief is already bad enough. Like, let us make it easy for you.
Exactly. Lay the foundation for
when
the
the
storm
time
hits.
comes. Because when it's going to hit, it's just, how are you prepared for it?
Exactly.
So yeah.
And who doesn't want to be prepared when, especially something like this, you
Right.
know?
And I think too, what also makes us unique is that financially, we're about a third of the cost. So you're getting more for your money. You can use that money for something else, right? And so it just feels better, like I've said.
Well, you have mentioned green burial.
Mm-hmm.
So what exactly is green burial, and how does it differ from conventional burial practices?
Cool. So green burial, I call it like the simple way to return back to nature. So no embalming, no toxins, nothing is going back into the earth that is causing pollution or harming the earth. So instead, we're creating sustainability. Everybody's worried about climate change, but I bet if I was to go over some fun facts with you about how much pollution goes back into the earth because of traditional burials, people would be in awe. I think it's not something we talk about, like the amount of concrete, the amount of plastic, lacquer, embalming fluids, which those that formaldehyde causes cancer, and it goes into the ground and leaches into the soil. And, what is the likelihood we're going to get cancer from that? Probably not a lot, but imagine if you lived next to a large cemetery and that was all going back into the earth. And like, Colby, think about this. I was just talking about this. We live in this world where traditional burials, we want to like savor this dead body. Like, what is the point of that? What if you could go back into the earth and you could give back? Your body is creating nutrients and
It's like a natural fertilizer.
yeah. So like, what if we could create that instead? And so Green Burial, a third of the costs, better for the earth. And it just uses the land better. You've got the wildlife preserve. So there's so many things that we'll go into deeper in later podcasts, but like ultimately that's what we're doing is we're creating a better future with less money.
There we go. It's another one of those really positive things that you guys are bringing to the table.
Yeah, I can't say that we're bringing a lot of bad things to the table. I mean, the conversation's not fun, but overall, we're creating a much better experience for families.
All right. So when we talk about you, what drew you personally to work in the green burial space?
Well, let's just say that I wasn't drawn into green burial. I was drawn into the idea of the business. And then, who knew that my dad would get sick and pass? And I think over time, it's become something that I love and I feel very passionate about. I don't know that I woke up one day and thought, you know what I want to do? I want to work at a cemetery and I would like to sell green burial plots. I think that our owners are wonderful individuals and that drew me to this space. I also love helping people. My passion in this world and my gift is to bring love and joy and to just help others. And so I think I was called to do that at Morgan Oaks, and then it led into all these other things.
I love that. Helping people when they're very vulnerable and at one of their lows in life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I went through that, and so now I know what it feels like on both sides, like why you should pre-plan and what happens if you don't pre-plan, what that looks like. And so again, very passionate about people setting up their forever home, because what it can look like after if you don't is not fun either. So it's more traumatic. So yeah.
What's your favorite thing about Morgan Oaks?
I love the people that I get to meet. Like I said, I could probably tell you a story about everybody out there, but to be able to serve families, to serve individuals, like you said, in one of their hardest, darkest seasons brings me so much joy. And the connection that I'm able to build and my people are able to build to just give people peace and closure and know that like their loved ones are taken care of. I love that. I love all my connections with all the people that are there.
That's important.
Yeah, it's fun. There's some great stories out there. And again, those are some of the things that we're going to talk about on here. I mean, I'm going to have some of those families on the podcast to talk about their stories and why they chose Morgan Oaks and how they got there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear some of those stories.
There's some good ones.
Let's dive in. All right. Well, what's the hardest part of working at Morgan Oaks? The hardest part?
Death. So I think the hardest part is watching people lose their loved ones, whether it be unexpectedly, expected. And, honestly, I've been there 4.5 years now since opening. We've been open November 2020, right? So 4.5 years. And you start to build relationships with these people, and one day it's their time. And that's hard for me. There are people that I have built a connection with, and then they are the ones that we're burying. And I think as the seasons grow and I'm there longer, you'll see more of that. Or, someone that loses a kid. Like that's never fun.
That's really hard.
And so I think that's the hard part is being the strong ones when those seasons hit. That's hard.
Why do you think people are becoming more interested in the green burial space?
Well, because we're fun at Morgan Oaks. So I think people are intrigued.
You guys are fun.
We are fun, yeah. And we're kind and we're loving. But I think green burial overall has become intriguing because people, obviously financially, are looking for a more affordable route. I mean, Colby, you know this, everyone that's listening, Colby is in the wedding world. So videographer for weddings, and his fiance does wedding photography. Colby, I always tell people, you could agree or disagree, but weddings are expensive.
Very expensive.
Right. He's planning one right now too. So he's probably like running the numbers. But I tell people your funeral is your wedding on your death day. They have become so expensive. And sometimes what happens is the more expensive the funeral, families are like, well, that's because culturally, the more I spend on you tells you that I loved you more. And so they're thousands, 50, 60, $70,000 to bury people. And like, who wants to do that? One, we're putting a coffin in the ground that we're never going to see again. And we're doing all these things. And so I think that people are taking a step back and being like, wait, there's another option where I can bury my loved one. It's still absolutely beautiful. It's still respectful, and they're giving back. And like, tell me more about this. But also, people are doing their research on what is it that we're doing when we put all these toxins and all these things into the earth, into a place where we're already worried about climate change and, all these things. And so I think that as people are learning about Morgan Oaks and a green burial, like Colby, green burial isn't new. It was pre-Civil War. And then all of a sudden the funeral industry, and we needed to get bodies over so that they could say goodbye to their loved ones when they passed. We started embalming. Well, then embalming grew into these huge funeral industries making money. And like, that's kind of how that evolved. So now we're just going back to a place of like, let's just do ancient traditions where you're one with the land again. And so I think people are starting to like put the pieces together of like, I don't need to spend an astronomical amount of money to bury my loved one, and it can still be beautiful.
Agreed.
Crazy, right? I know
Yeah,
these
very
weddings are
crazy.
out of control. These funerals are out of control. Like, we just need to like rein it back in. And you could do both beautifully, right? Like, you could have an affordable wedding and beautiful. It doesn't have to be crazy.
Yeah, I want it crazy though.
Okay.
Maybe not too
Semi
crazy,
crazy.
but we're thinking destination wedding, but that's
Yeah,
just
even better.
too crazy for
I'm
them.
inviting myself for everyone who's listening. I mean, I feel like I'm
She thinks she's inviting herself, but the invitation's there.
okay. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
So at Morgan Oaks, you have lots of trees,
Mm-hmm.
and you guys are constantly planting new ones. So what is the significance of planting these trees or restoring the land in memory of loved ones?
Sure. So we're known for planting trees. That's what we would call a tree memorial estate. And that is planted at your burial site. And that is your family's legacy. So let's say my dad passes and he's buried at Morgan Oaks, which he is, and I plant a tree. That's my family's tree. So I can be buried with my dad, and that's our tree. I can visit our tree. And so we have trees buried on the internment area. They're all strategically placed, you guys. I know that's always a question. People are like, oh my gosh, there's just going to be overrun by trees. That's not true. We have biologists, we have arborists, we have land management crews that come out, and we strategically place the trees. So Blue and Valley Oak are placed on the property. That's what's native to Morgan Oaks. That's what's native to Northern California in that area. And that's what can withstand the drought and everything. So those are what those trees are. Along the road, we have trees as well. Those are roadside tree memorials. That might be for someone who maybe doesn't have their loved one's remains anymore. So my brother has a tree out there. I don't have his remains, but it's a memorial tree for my brother, a place for me to remember him, to just like, hey, Brian, how are you? Just a place to, Brian, that's my brother. So those are also oak. Anything outside of those would be a willow, a cottonwood. And again, it's whatever is best to grow in certain areas. But those trees are specific either for someone, for a person, for a family, but it leaves their legacy.
I love that. What do you want people to feel when they visit Morgan Oaks?
I mean, I think, you've been out there. I want people to feel peace. I want them to feel like happiness. I don't want it to be a place of sadness. I want you to go there and enjoy nature. Enjoy that your loved one is at somewhere beautiful. We all know, maybe they're not there, but you get to visit them in a place where they're taken care of. That they're with nature and they're giving back. And so I think we want to create a place where it's peaceful, it's serene, and they're welcome, and you want to go there. right? You're not like, oh, I got to go visit my grandma at the cemetery today. Like it's Mother's Day, got to go visit mom. You want to be able to say like, oh yeah, I'm going to go do a little walk, visit mom while I'm there, or, whoever.
It's a good place to like unplug and
Yeah.
just connect with the person or the earth and just kind of get away from all the busyness of everyday
Yeah.
life. And
Slow down.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
I really enjoy going out there,
Cool.
especially like sitting here listening to you talk. In my mind, I've been to all these other cemeteries, and then going out there, it's like night and day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
And the word you say, peaceful, is like that's exactly what it is. It's very peaceful out there.
It's quiet out there. Like people, I think, come out and they're like, oh my gosh, like you could hear a pin drop. There are roads around us and people are always like, what's the traffic like? And I'm like, well, 8 cars a day. So it's pretty minimal on the main roads. But yeah, like it's just quiet.
Yeah. I like going out there. I've seen numerous different types of animals and birds, and went out there with my macro lens and took a whole bunch of flower shots and
Yeah.
bees, and it's really nice.
We have a lot of bird watchers. I mean, there's apparently multiple kinds of birds out there. I know like a woodpecker because he pecks on the building, but otherwise but I have the Audubon come out a lot and they are always telling us all the great animals that are out there, hawks all the time. Like we have a coyote that scurries around the back.
I've seen
Like,
the coyote a couple
I call it a
times.
she. I don't really know what it is, but she, controls the property in the back. So
There we go.
yeah.
Yeah, I've seen quails,
Yep.
deer, seen the hawks. So
Yeah. It's
really
cool.
nice. Yeah. So speaking of podcasts, we got this podcast. This is our first episode.
Whoop, whoop.
What kind of topics and stories will this podcast explore?
So this has been like 6 months in the making. Well, it was like kind of like a little thing, and then it was not a thing, and then it was. My boss and I were like, "Let's make this a thing." Like I feel like the people want to
People
hear.
like things.
Yeah. And if you guys are listening and you're like, "I don't ever want to listen to this again," just don't tell me that. Just shut it down. But
Just give us a like.
yeah.
Move along.
But I think you're going to hear all kinds of stuff. Like again, I want to make death a conversation that can be light. You're educated. So we're going to have anything from, Colby, you telling us about like, what have you been doing with Morgan Oaks? The people that built Morgan Oaks, the building that's out there. We're going to have some of the funeral home industry people, the funeral homes that I work with. I want to know like, what does Green Burial look like from their side? Because I think we get a lot of questions about like, what's the transition from death to Morgan Oaks? Like, how do I get there? Death doulas. That's a really like new thing. I know. What is a
that?
death doula? Well, like a birthing doula. Do you know what a birthing doula is?
It's like an assistant.
Yeah. So like there's one for death too. So we might have a death doula on. I know, right? Like there's
If you have two of them, are they gonna duel?
yeah,
Death
yeah,
duel?
get it? A death duel. So doulas, we might have, I'd really love to have families that have loved ones at Morgan Oaks. Like I said, I want their stories because we've got some really great stories of how people found Morgan Oaks, why they're at Morgan Oaks, why they chose us. So that, and then of course I'm going to have the founders on because I think everybody wants to know, like, how does one sit around and say, you know what I'm going to do tomorrow? Start a Green Burial Cemetery. Like, how did that even come into play? And I could probably guess, but I'd really like for them to share with us. So of course they'll be on. But we're going to have anything from industry experts to families to our business partners. So it's going to be a whole slew of different types of topics that I think whether you choose Morgan Oaks in California or you're like, hey, I live in Colorado. This is cool. I'm going to go find a place out here. Obviously, they won't be as cool as us probably, but I'm going to find the Green Burial in my neck of the woods that I could get down with this. This is exciting for me. Start exploring.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of really cool stuff coming up in the works.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to learn more about the Green Burial space and all
Great.
the stuff that I don't know about Morgan Oaks. And shout out to all the staff out there. You guys are awesome.
Thank you.
So how can the listeners engage with Morgan Oaks and be a part of this journey with us?
Cool. So obviously our podcast, right? You can engage this way. We have a newsletter, so they can go to our website, which is www.morganoaksgreenburial.com, and you can sign up from our newsletter or for our newsletter there. We have social media, which is really cool. So we have an Instagram, which is Morgan Oaks Eternal. We have a TikTok, which I know everyone's like, are people on that? They are. And that's at Morgan Oaks Eternal. And then we have a Facebook, Morgan Oaks Eternal Preserve. We have a YouTube. So there's lots of ways to connect with us. And here's what I'll say. Like, you might be thinking, well, Steph, I already have my burial plot, or like, whatever. This isn't for me. The other thing that makes us a little bit different and more unique is this Friday is a great example. So the 21st, we have Pause and Pose, which is bring your dogs out to Morgan Oaks, go for a little walk, and then we have a treat and a toy for them. And then we're going to take a picture with your pet and send it to you. So we are really big in community. Like, I want to bring the community out. You could never buy a plot from me, but if you want to walk your dog every day, please. I love dogs, and I would love for you to come out and use our property. We've talked to CHP, and they can train their dogs in the back 40 if they want. So I want to support local schools. If there are sports or schools that, want to use the property for something, or churches or whatever, my goal is, hey, we have 160 acres, come use this. But we have Pause and Pose on Friday. And so you can always join and follow us on these locations to just be like, what's the cool thing that Morgan Oaks is doing? We have yoga first Thursday of every month outside on the patio, which is absolutely beautiful. And we have an official yoga instructor that runs that. And so, like, you don't have to buy a plot with us, but come take advantage of the property. So follow us, join us in all of these great things. That is one of the biggest things, is we want to serve the community and give back any way that we can.
Community is important.
You
guys are obviously doing what you do. Sign me up for that yoga.
Okay. We all need it, especially as we
man back.
especially as we get older. It's good for the soul too, being out there, for sure.
Sucking in all that vitamin D. Well, first podcast is a wrap.
Cool.
Thank you for stopping by. I feel like we got a nice little journey ahead of us.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to watch this podcast grow.
Me too. And for the listeners, we probably need like a sign off. I feel like we should let the listeners figure out a sign off for us.
Let's do it.
Okay. So if you're listening, Colby and I will put our brains together, but we would love to know, like, we need a little sign off. So go listen to a podcast and be like, what should their sign off be? And then we'll pick one and they'll win something. All right, you guys, thank you so much for listening in. We'll see you next month. So this will be once a month for now. And so we'll see you next month.
Let's do it.
All right.
Have a great day, everybody.
All right. Bye, guys.